I've got some running issues. I think we're going to go over looking for them today. The best way to do that would be to get out your tricorder and just do a reading. For those of you who don't have a tricorder, I'm going to be going over the Bentley. I have an 83.5, which I call the experimental year. So I'm going to be on page 24.20 here of the Bentley manual, and these are going to be my checks I'm going to do. So let's start by pulling off the plug off the ECU. I want to say before I did that, I went down in here and I checked the impedance at the Temp 2 sensor across there. That was pretty difficult getting the little probes in there, but I marked down the impedance for that because I want to see if it matches when we get back to the ECU. This pries off at the top, and you pull it down a little bit, it pops out. And this guy here is going to match the book. If you leave water bottles in your cabinet all winter and they freeze and then explode in the spring, they will get your Bentley soaking wet and it'll look like this. I'm going to go down the list. The first one is the temperature 2 sensor, which are at 2 and 7. We have it marked up here. And we have it here. 2 and 7 is my Temp 2 sensor. (14 and 6 are the Temp 1. I skipped ahead to that one so I can see if I can match the impedance. (5 and 7 are the O2 sensor. That should be at infinite when the sensor's connected. Now we're going to disconnect the sensor wire and ground it to check it. With the wire leading to the O2 sensor grounded, we should read 0. Air intake sensor should be 560 ohms. That is 6 and 19. Both connections 7 and 25 are both ground. So what I do is I, ran the ohm meter across that and the grounding of the vehicle and that one, and they both checked out down to 0. 11, 12, 23, and 24 all connected with the ground on 7. It says in the Bentley should be 16 to 16.4 ohms. All of mine read 19 or 20. So I'm going to investigate that. Don't ask me how. So when you do the check the impedance of the temp senders, you got to look on this chart on page 24.28. Now that's for the DigiJet, which is what I have. Different page if you got the newer models. Okay, page 24.28. We're going to do the connectors at the air intake sensor. Alright, 6 and 9 should read 500 to 1000 ohms. Alright. Check our throttle valve switch. Should read 0 when it's closed. And it reads 1 when it's open, like it should. You have to trust me on this one. Actually, this one back here feels kind of crumbly. Even though it looks new, I'm going to replace that. Being that it's a Vanagon, it's 30 years old almost, I usually just turn on the key, let the fuel pump get up the pressure, and I just double check and smell for gas or anything like that back here. I just started the van. I'm doing a O2 voltage sensor check right now as the van warms up. Engine's warm. Got the Temp 2 sender. That's 2 and 7. That's 325 ohms, which is in the ballpark for the current temperature. I don't have a Temp 1 sensor is reading 1963 ohms. Let's check on that. Connect multimeter terminals 6 and 22. I don't see any 6 and 22. Alright, well, I cleaned this up. I'm going to put it back in. Alright, well, it's 25 degrees Celsius. It's impedance is 2200, which matches this chart. And I got another airflow meter I'm going to check out a little later. It has a slightly higher impedance at the same temperature. After running 5 minutes, I'm checking the voltage at the throttle switch. Should be 5 volts. Sorry for the camera cap there. 4.96 is good enough for me. Shocking as it may seem, I have a coolant leak. Which is odd that I have it here in my driveway, because usually the coolant leak is designed to manifest itself at 8 p.m. on a Friday night somewhere in Maine. Alright, I'm going to set the timing. What I usually do before that is always clean up the distributor cap and the rotor inside. They're not that old, actually. If you're wondering about my fuel injectors, they're not that old either. Neither is so is my fuel pump's pretty new. And so is my gas tank. My fuel filter's not that old either. The first thing we're going to do is unplug the idle stabilizer and plug those two plugs together. I've attached my little dwell meter, and I'm going to loosen up the distributor. Adjust the idle speed between 850 and 950. Then use our Flintstone timing light. Oh, and temperature of the outside of the water thermostat housing is about 85 degrees Celsius. We got 262 ohms. That's in the ballpark on the chart. This is 35 degrees Celsius. We're at 1757 ohms, which is also on the chart. Only an idiot would keep trying to start the van after unplugging this each time. That's something you don't want working on your van, I'll tell you that much. I think it's time to take off these snow tires. I was having two minor problems before I started this. One was it was running a little too cool, and the other one was it's running a little too rich. Temperature was fine today when I just took it out and drove around a little bit, but it's also 75 degrees today, and when it's been running too cool, it's been like in the 45-55 degree range. So we'll look at that tomorrow. And as for running a little rich and not as running as well, I'd say as of today, this morning, it was probably running at 85% of potential. Now it's running at 90% of potential, or maybe a little bit more. So it's running a little bit better after the tweaks we did today, but still not where I want it. To be continued.